As an English teacher, as any kind of teacher, I think we need the tech that Unrulr represents because we know that teaching is relational, that it's all about the kind of relationships that we establish with students. If I can create relationships, both in person but also virtually with my own students, I am benefiting not only myself because it makes my job easier, but I am benefiting students ultimately because they understand that the adults in this building care for them and want to know what they're doing and how they're learning. My name's Gary Heidt. I'm an English teacher and an entrepreneurship teacher at a small school, high school in Pennsylvania. I use Unrulr in my English class to try to establish a learner-centered, self-determined learning classroom. One of the ways I do that is I have students work through what are alternately called purpose projects or 20-time projects or genius hour. That means that I might have 30 to 60 students all doing different things. So the problem is, like, how do I track this learning in authentic, learner-centered, learner-initiated ways? Because no test is going to do that. No quiz is going to do that. Unrulr was definitely the answer. They work in 2-week cycles. We call them scrums. And during those 2 weeks, they have to record at least 4 Unrulr moments over the 2 weeks. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, they pull them together into a journey. It allows for students to talk to each other about what they've been doing, how they've been doing it, what problems they've encountered, and it gives the students a chance to build community around these purpose projects and to see what each other is doing and how each other is struggling and how each other is succeeding. And one of the greatest things that comes out of this is the way that students grow into speaking so honestly about their work. So this is a picture of one of my students. He is in Vermont, but he's used this picture because what he wanted to say was this, that the past 2 weeks for him have not been so great academically because he's been away on vacation. And when he came back, there was a whole lot of homework that he had to get to. And this just caused a huge problem for him. He says, I think there's a lot I can learn from Unrulr because it allows me to connect with others and give some insight into how everyone works through their own projects. That's something that I'm not going to get in a public fashion in essays or blogs. And that's one of the key reasons that I use Unrulr, because it helps build community inside and outside my classroom. One of the biggest outcomes for me in terms of Unrulr and for my students is the use of the COGS, these standards or competencies that we have decided these are the things that are going to show your learning. I simply say, capture a moment of learning for yourself where you feel that you have achieved one of these 3 or 4 COGS, and then talk about why and how you achieved that COG. That kind of metacognition, that kind of thinking about what did I just learn and how did I learn that? There's nothing better than hearing students talk at that depth about their own learning. As an English teacher, as any kind of teacher, I think we need the tech that Unrulr represents because we know that teaching is relational, that it's all about the kind of relationships that we establish with students. And that is like the number one outcome for return on investment of time. If I can create relationships, both in person, but also virtually with my own students, I am benefiting not only myself because it makes my job easier, but I am benefiting students ultimately because they understand that the adults in this building care for them and want to know what they're doing and how they're learning.